My mom cut me off for not co-signing my brother's loan. 10 years later she wanted forgiveness. Hi, I'm Alex, 34, and the last time I spoke to my mother she said, "Don't you dare call me again until you've apologized to your brother." Her voice was cold. Her hand shook as she pointed inches from my face like I just spat on the family crest. The crime? Refusing to co-sign a loan for my little brother's third business idea in 5 years. The punishment? 10 years of silence. I still remember the smell of burnt pot roast mixing with rage. It was a Sunday. Mom had scorched dinner while yelling at me, slamming cabinet doors and declarations in equal measure. "You are dead to us until you fix this," she snapped. "Don't call. Don't write. Don't come back until you know your place." I looked at her. Then at my brother Brian, 22 and smug behind a mug of sweet tea like the king of the kitchen. I was 23, 1 year older, freshly graduated with a job offer in Chicago that I'd fought tooth and nail for. It was supposed to be a celebration. Instead, I walked out with nothing but a duffel bag, a stack of student loans, and the kind of silence that hardens into resolve. I expected the silent treatment to last a few weeks, maybe a few months. Long enough for her to miss me. But when it stretched to a year, then 5, then 10, something wild happened. I stopped feeling guilty. Instead, I started building. No family holidays. No brother drama. No financial sinkholes labeled helping out. Just me and the clean hum of a life I designed alone. I climbed from entry level to department head in under a decade. I moved from a tiny apartment to a penthouse with skyline views. I learned to cook. I learned to rest. I learned that peace doesn't come with shared blood, it comes with boundaries. And then, just as I was beginning to think maybe I'd imagined the whole family thing, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Ohio area code. I let it go to voicemail. Then a second call. Then a text. "Please answer. It's Aunt Cheryl. It's about your mom." I hadn't heard from Cheryl in years. Not since she tried to, accidentally, have me show up at Thanksgiving with Brian already there. I stared at the message. The old me would have cracked open like a beer can in July. But 34-year-old me took a slow sip of black coffee and waited. Eventually, curiosity outpaced indifference. I picked up. "Hello, Cheryl." "Oh, thank God." Her voice was thick, panicked. "Alex, your mom's in the hospital. Heart failure. They're saying, weeks maybe." Silence. Not grief. Not panic. Just silence. "She's asking for you," Cheryl added. "She's been calling your name in her sleep." I rubbed my temple. "She told me not to call unless I apologized." "I haven't." "Oh, come on," she snapped. "That was 10 years ago. And I'm respecting her boundary," I said evenly. "She made the rules. Alex, I'm not being cruel. I'm being consistent. If she wants to write a letter, I'll read it. But I'm not flying back to play the scapegoat in her final act." And I hung up. It should have been the end. But if you know anything about families like mine, that was just the opening shot. By the time I got to work the next morning, the hounds had been released. Voicemails from cousins I hadn't seen since Brian's third court date. Facebook messages from old neighbors who once thought I was the quiet, respectful one. Texts from numbers I didn't recognize that all followed the same script. "Your mother is dying. Are you really going to let her go without saying goodbye?" Nobody mentioned why she kicked me out. Nobody brought up the decade of emotional blackmail or financial bloodletting. Nobody cared that I'd said no to co-signing a $75,000 loan for Brian's genius idea to open a chain of self-serve yogurt shops inside gas stations. They just needed a villain. And apparently, I'd been nominated. Then came the call I should have ignored. Unknown number. Straight from a county I hadn't seen since I was 23. But part of me, a tiny, reckless part, wanted to hear it. I answered. "Alex," he said. "Brian." Still sounded like someone who read too many books about being an alpha male but never quite figured out rent. I didn't say anything. Just waited. "Mom's crying every day," he said. "She's in the hospital, hooked up to machines, and you're out there sipping lattes and pretending you're above it all." "I'm working," I said. "Something you should try." There was a pause. "You always thought you were better than us." "No," I said. "I just stopped believing that being used was love." Brian scoffed. "You think you're a big shot now? With your view and your job and your little perfect life?" "I think I'm someone who learned the word no," Which apparently makes me Voldemort in our family. She's dying, Alex. He barked. Are you really going to let her go without making it right? What needs to be made right? I said calmly. That I didn't bankrupt myself for your yoga dream? That I refused to fund your gambling debt and call it support? Or that I didn't buy into Mom's belief that enabling you was some kind of maternal virtue? You're heartless, he said. You're letting your own mother die alone. She's not alone, I said. She's got you. Her favorite. That hit home. I could hear the anger folding in on itself, turning into desperation. She wants to forgive you. I laughed. She exiled me for not paying for your mess. Now she wants to forgive me? Come home, Alex. Help us with the bills. The insurance isn't covering everything. And the house needs repairs before she can come back for hospice. Ah. There it was. The real ask. It's not about saying goodbye, I said. It's about cutting another check. He didn't deny it. He didn't have to. I'm going to tell everyone. He spat. What a selfish piece of crap you are. I shrugged. Go ahead. But be sure to tell them I'm just following Mom's rules. I never called. I never apologized. Just like she asked? And then I blocked the number. Then I blocked Cheryl. Then I enabled a setting that silenced all unknown callers. The silence returned, but this time, it felt like armor. The hospital bill hit like a flash bang in the middle of my Monday. Not a bill to me, of course. Aunt Cheryl had found a new way in, email. Work email, to be precise. Subject line. Urgent your mother. Inside. She's deteriorating fast. I know you think you're making a point, but this isn't the time. We don't have the money. Your father's exhausted. Brian is trying his best. I closed the message, took a deep breath, and opened another tab. Not to respond. To search, Columbus Memorial Billing Department. I called the hospital. Hi, I'm calling about a patient, Janet Harris. I'm her son, but we're estranged. I want to make a one-time payment. The woman on the line didn't ask questions. She just pulled up the file. Outstanding balance is $6,143. Room and board. Insurance covered the rest. I'll pay that, I said. One condition. Yes? Make a note on the account, this payment is anonymous. The family isn't to be told it came from me. Also, remove me as next of kin. My brother Brian Harris is now the sole responsible party. I read out my card number. It's dumb. Not because I couldn't afford it, but because I knew exactly how the narrative would play out. She's comfortable now because Brian stepped up. Of course. Let them believe it. I wasn't paying for credit. I was paying for silence. I hung up and stared at the wall. That's $6,143? That was my final tithe. My severance from a family that only valued me as long as I was useful. 2 days later, Cheryl emailed again. Subject, she's gone. Body. She passed in her sleep. I hope you're proud of yourself. You broke her heart. No signature. No condolences. Just blame. I replied once. Cheryl. My mother broke her own heart the day she chose my brother's comfort over my well-being. I honored her boundary. I didn't call. I didn't visit. I respected her words to the very end. I also paid off her hospital bill last week. She died warm, dry, and cared for. That's more than she gave me the night she threw me out. Do not contact me again. Alex. Then I hit block. The funeral was the following Saturday. I didn't go. But I heard stories. Brian got drunk and started a fight over the cost of the casket spray. Someone brought up the inheritance. Someone else brought up the estranged son, and how shameful it was that I didn't show. I was 2,300 miles away, sipping a $19 bourbon at a rooftop bar in Santa Fe. The sky was turning orange and gold over the mountains, and for the first time since I was a kid, I felt light. Like I'd just escaped a gravity I didn't know I was living under. 3 days after the funeral, I got a Venmo request from Brian. $500. Funeral costs. Don't be a dick. The sheer gall of it made me laugh. Not a please. Not a thank you. Not even an attempt at pretending he wasn't the same leech in a slightly darker suit. Just a middle finger wrapped in an invoice. I hit decline, and for good measure, blocked him there too. That night, I did something that felt embarrassingly ceremonial. I pulled up my contacts. Every last Harris in my phone. Cousins, aunts, old neighbors who still thought Brian was just misunderstood. Delete. Not block. Not silence. Delete. Gone. I wasn't angry. I was clean. I poured myself a glass of wine, sat on the balcony of my apartment, and stared out over the city, its glass and steel bones catching the last light of day. There was something in the silence I hadn't noticed before. Peace. Not the kind you buy with detachment, or overfunctioning or paying other people's debts. The kind that only shows up when you finally understand the difference between obligation and loyalty. The next morning, I got a package. No return address. Inside, a dusty photo album and a note written in my father's shaky handwriting. She kept these. All these years. I didn't know. I'm sorry, Alex. For a lot of things. The album was old. Cracked leather. Yellowed pages. Photos of us at the beach when I was 8 and Brian had that ridiculous bowl cut. One of me winning the 6th grade science fair. Mom holding the ribbon like it weighed more than pride. And on the last page, taped loosely, a note. Written in her handwriting, dated just a year after I left. If he ever sees this, I hope he knows I was wrong. I just didn't know how to admit it. I read it 3 times. It didn't feel like redemption. It felt like dust. Soft and sad and long overdue. She'd never sent it. Never picked up the phone. But she'd written it. And in that tiny, crumpled scrap of paper, something inside me unclenched. I didn't forgive her. But I let go of the version of myself who was still waiting for her to. A week later, a letter arrived. Not an email. Not a text. A real, handwritten envelope with shaky cursive and too many stamps. Return address: Brian Harris. Postmark: Columbus, Ohio. I almost threw it out unopened. But some stubborn curiosity pushed my fingers to tear the edge. Inside was 2 pages, lined notebook paper, torn from a spiral. The handwriting was jagged, angry. Alex. You win. Mom's dead. Dad barely speaks. And everyone thinks I'm some kind of leech, thanks to your little disappearance act. I don't know what you expected me to do, man. They always helped me. That's how it was. That's how it's always been. I didn't make the rules. I just followed them. You were always the golden boy in school. The one who got out. The one who didn't need help. That doesn't make you better than me. So here's what I'm asking. One last time. We sell the house. Split it. You don't want anything to do with us? Fine. But take your cut and walk away clean. That's fair. You paid one bill, don't act like it makes you Jesus. Let me know. I'm tired of pretending I have this figured out. Brian. I sat with the letter in my lap for a long time. Not angry. Not even insulted. Just tired. Tired of the math always being emotional labor for me and dollar signs for him. I didn't respond with a letter. I drafted an email. Subject: House. Brian. I don't want the house. I don't want the money. Sell it, burn it, move in with it. I genuinely don't care. But understand this, I am not a vending machine for our family's regrets. I paid that hospital bill for one reason, so I could sleep at night, knowing that even in estrangement, I did the right thing. Not for praise. Not for reconciliation. For closure. You want peace? Try earning it. And for God's sake, stop sending me bills wrapped in guilt. Alex. I didn't hit send right away. I let it sit in drafts while I made dinner, something simple and warm. Then I came back, reread it, and clicked. Send. No second guessing. No lingering. Just a clean exit. That was the moment I realized. I wasn't waiting for Brian to grow up anymore. I wasn't trying to fix the family. I was done holding open a door no one even wanted to walk through. 2 weeks of quiet passed. No new messages. No funeral photos from extended family. No surprise charges. Just stillness. Then an email. Subject line: Can we talk? From Leah Harper. My breath caught. Leah was my cousin, my mom's sister's daughter. We'd been close as kids. Sleepovers, shared homework answers, whispered jokes at family reunions. She was the only one who'd ever snuck me extra dessert when I was grounded for talking back. I clicked. Hey, Alex. I know I'm probably on your mental do not resuscitate list, but I'm writing anyway. I didn't go to the funeral. I didn't think I had the right to mourn someone who chose her pride over her son. But I wanted you to know something. I visited your mom in the hospital, 2 days before she passed. She was confused, mostly loopy from meds. But she kept saying your name. Over and over. Alex, Alex, Alex? Not Brian. Not Dad. You. She said. Tell him I was wrong. Then she fell asleep. I don't know if that helps or just makes things worse. But I thought you deserved to hear it from someone who was actually there, not through Cheryl's bitterness or Brian's tantrums. If you ever want to grab coffee, or scream into a void, or just sit in silence, I'm around. No agenda. Just me. Leah. I sat with it longer than I expected. I didn't cry. But something inside me, something long frozen, shifted. It didn't thaw. But it cracked. I wrote back. Hey. Thank you for telling me. I don't think I need closure from her anymore. But I appreciate knowing that, in the end, some part of her saw it. Coffee sounds good. Let's do awkward nostalgia with a side of quiet judgment. Alex. We met 2 days later at a small cafe I liked. Quiet, no line, good chairs. She looked older, sharper. The softness of childhood replaced with something heavier, like she'd lived through her own version of the family firestorm. You look tired, she said. I sleep fine, I said. But emotionally? Yeah. Exhausted. We didn't talk about the will. Or Brian. Or who did or didn't show up. We talked about dumb movies we loved as kids. How Uncle Ron still ruins every barbecue with politics. And how neither of us ever really bought into the whole family first mantra. I think, Leah said quietly, stirring her coffee, you were the first one who figured out how to leave. I nodded. And you were the first one who didn't chase me down for rent money after. She laughed. It wasn't a reconciliation. But it was a witness. And sometimes, that's more sacred. The house went up for sale 3 weeks later. I knew because I got a Zillow alert. New listing, 3-bed/2 bath in Columbus suburbs. And there it was, clear as day. My childhood home. The sagging porch still leaning like it had secrets. The cracked driveway patched just enough to pretend it wasn't a metaphor. I didn't care. Not really. Until I saw the open house flyer. Posted on Facebook. By Brian. Family legacy home, lovingly maintained. Sellers eager to pass it on to the next generation. I nearly choked on my coffee. Family legacy? Lovingly maintained? The last time I was in that house, I got exiled over a bank loan and a burned roast. I should have let it go. But something about the sheer revisionism made me pause. Then came the group chat screenshots. Sent to me by Leah, because apparently someone in the family had added her back to the thread titled, Team Harris, Big Changes. Brian had written, once we close on the house, we'll finally be in a position to make real investments. Mom would have wanted it this way. I'm working on something big. I'm thinking RV rentals. Think Airbnb but on wheels. We're calling it RVL. Also, if Alex ever shows his face again, let's not let him ruin this. He made his choice. I stared at that line. He made his choice. Yes. I did. I chose not to bankroll someone else's delusions. I chose to walk away from a family that only saw me as a safety net with a pulse. I chose peace over performance. Still, I sent one final message. Just one. Straight to Brian's inbox. I heard about the sale. Don't use my name or our mother's memory to pitch your next startup scam. Sell the house. Take the money. Blow it on RVL or scratch tickets or whatever you're calling responsibility these days. But don't you dare rewrite history like you were the loyal son and I was the one who left them to rot. I paid for her last bed. You posted the listing from it. We are not the same. I never heard back. Not even a petty jab. And for once, the silence didn't feel like rejection. It felt like resolution. 2 months after the sale, I got a card in the mail. No return address, but I knew the handwriting. It was from my father. We hadn't spoken in a decade. Not really. He'd always been the quiet one, just another shadow behind my mother's declarations and Brian's drama. A man who worked overtime, skipped dinners, and sat silently through every family meltdown like it was his job to absorb fallout. Inside the card was a short note. Alex, I know I don't deserve a reply. But I wanted you to know I left something for you. When we sold the house, I took my half and donated most of it. I didn't want Brian using it for another one of his ideas. He was angry. Still is. But I took $7,000 and set it aside in your name. In an account. Nothing fancy. Just something. Not because I think it balances the books, but because I finally understand you were the only one keeping track in the first place. I'm sorry. For everything I didn't say. For everything I let happen in front of me. For standing next to your mother instead of between you and her. I don't expect anything. I just wanted you to know I see it now. All of it. Dad. There was a bank slip enclosed. Legit. Account in my name. Transfer ready to accept. I stared at it for a long time. Not because I wanted the money, but because I didn't know what to do with a gesture that arrived too late, but wasn't wrong. I didn't call him. I didn't write back. But I transferred the funds and gave the entire amount to a scholarship program for first-gen students leaving home with nothing but a suitcase and a stubborn sense of direction. A week later, I got an email from the program director. Subject: Your donation has already helped 3 students get laptops, train tickets, and deposit checks for campus housing. I smiled. For once, the math made sense. I wasn't erasing the past. I was reassigning the debt. Not to my father. Not to Brian. To myself. To the version of me who stood on the sidewalk at 23 with nowhere to go but forward. 6 months after the funeral, I stood outside the old house. Not for nostalgia. Not for closure. Because Leah had invited me. New owners. Young couple. Friendly dog. They'd redone the porch and added solar panels, but the bones were the same. The place where I'd first learned to tiptoe. To apologize. To make myself smaller so the volume in the room didn't spike. Leah met me at the curb with a coffee and a half-smile. No ghosts, she said. I checked. I laughed. Not a bitter laugh. A real one. I think mine left when the drywall did. We didn't go in. We walked the block instead, like we used to on summer nights when we were kids, trying to find cooler air and a little bit of freedom before the streetlights came on. She told me she'd been in therapy for almost a year. Said she used to think I was cruel for walking away. Now she thought maybe I just did it first. I nodded. No one teaches you how to stop performing for people who only clap when you bleed. Or how to keep loving your family without letting them bankrupt you, she added. At the end of the block, we sat on a curb outside the old corner store. It was a vape shop now. Do you ever miss them? She asked. I didn't answer right away. I let the question sit in the space between us, honest and hard. Sometimes, I said. But only the version of them I wish they were. Not the ones I actually had. She nodded like she understood. Because she did. We parted with a hug. No drama. No promises. Just 2 cousins who had survived the same fire, walking out of the smoke in opposite directions. That night back in Seattle, I stood in my apartment and looked at the framed photo on my shelf. It wasn't of my family. It was of me, 24, sitting on the floor of my first apartment eating instant noodles with a plastic fork. No furniture. No plan. Just possibility. It wasn't the beginning. But it was the start. 1 year to the day since I walked out of that scorched Sunday kitchen and into silence, I stood on a stage in front of 300 strangers. Keynote speaker. Topic: Boundaries, burnout, and becoming, the quiet exit that saved my life. I wore a charcoal suit that actually fit this time, not a clearance rack panic buy. I didn't use a script. Just notes, memories, and a voice that had finally learned how to carry its own weight. I told them about the phone call I didn't return. The hospital bill I paid without a thank you. The funeral I skipped without guilt. I told them about the moment I realized that sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't fighting for your family, but letting them lose access to you. They didn't clap right away. They sat in that silence like it was church. Then they stood. One by one. Not for me, but for themselves. For the parts of them that were also tired of being the hero in a story that never had room for them. Afterwards, a woman approached me. Probably mid-50s, nervous. Clutching a copy of my book. Can I ask you something? She said. Of course. Do you ever regret not going back? I didn't flinch. No, I said. Because going back would have cost me everything I built. And I don't mourn what I walked away from. I mourn who I had to become to survive it. She nodded slowly. Thank you. My son walked away 5 years ago. I think I just realized why. We didn't hug. We didn't cry. But her eyes were wet when she walked away, and mine weren't dry either. Back at the hotel, I poured a whiskey and sat by the window. The city buzzed below. I looked at my phone, clear of messages, notifications, emergencies. No one waiting to guilt me. No one waiting to use me. Just peace. Just me. And maybe, for the first time in my life, that was enough. A year later, I pinned the $15 coffee shop gift card to the corkboard above my desk. Not out of spite. Not as a wound. As a marker. The day they gave me that card was the day they handed me clarity. It didn't buy coffee. It bought distance. It bought freedom. My office was quiet. My calendar full, but not chaotic. Leah sent me a photo that morning, her at a family cookout, my dad smiling in the background. He looked older. Softer. Smaller. She added, "They ask about you. I just say you're doing well." I replied, "Thanks. That's enough." I stood, stretched, and opened the window. The breeze rolled in, cool and sweet. No ghosts. No alarms. No fire to put out. In the end, my mother got her wish. I never called. I never apologized. And in return, I got something better than her approval. I got my life back. Sometimes the cleanest love you can offer is absence. And sometimes the only peace you'll ever find is the kind you give to yourself.